June 18th. I'm going to bring to order the Hancock County Commissioners meeting for June 18th, 2024.
I'm going to move to adopt the agenda as presented with the exception of removing item 9A.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any public comment? See any? Now approval of the minutes for June 4th.
I'm going to move to approve the minutes for the June 4th Commissioners' regular meeting as presented and copied forward to the Commission at 1:23 on yesterday, June 17th by email.
Second motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Looks like Millard on the.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Hello. You got a couple renewals for us today?
Yes. The Sullivan Solid Waste is no change. That's just a renewal. The Sullivan Fire and EMS, there's no change in the stipend. There's no change in the hourly rate for equipment, but they increased the hourly rate for firefighters, firefighter 1, 2, and the officials. The low end for a firefighter used to be $12 an hour, and it wasn't meeting minimum wage, so we raised that to $16. But those are the only changes in those contracts.
Thank you.
So the first one, I'm going to move to approve and sign the renewal of the solid waste agreement with the town of Sullivan to serve Hunt Lake area of Township 7 as presented.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I'm going to move to approve and sign the renewal of the fire and EMS agreement with the town of Sullivan to serve Hunt Lake area of Township 7 as presented.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do you have anything else for us, Millard?
That's everything I've got, Commissioners. Thank you.
You. Probate.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm here to request to hire Kathy Matthews to carry on as part-time probate clerk at grade 6A, effective June 22nd.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving along, I also have an update. I have sourced the technology improvements for the courtroom, and I have attached them for your review. They include purchase of a large screen visual aid, associated cable, soundbar, and surge protector, an ultra heavy TV mount, portable smart screen monitor, 3 laptops, 1 large flat screen scanner, 4 desk scanners, and a supplemental backup. And then I added a new item. The new item is highlighted as the Meeting Owl 3. It should have been on my previous draft, but I forgot. And what this does is it provides an immersive experience for the people that are using the meeting by Zoom. And currently the district court and superior courts are using this, and I've had attorneys actually request and see probate use this. So this is something that will be easy to use and for us to manage and fairly quickly to set up if you authorize.
When I look, it says here it's a total cost of $10,295. When I add up everything except the owl, I come to $15,900.
The 15.9 figure is probably from my estimates, which was on the original March 29th memo, which I kept there because my estimates were over estimates. And I was actually able to source, with the help of IT, Chuck Carter, better priced items. And pretty much everything I can do sole sourced. The desk scanners, I thought I might have to go to bid, but he was able to provide me with a rate reduction, and that's underneath the bid process. So really, It's just the laptops
So the
that,
channel 295 is the actual.
yes, sir. I apologize for the confusion. I just sort of was wanting to highlight how I
No
narrowed
problem.
down that number.
No problem.
And as I understand, this is part of what we discussed when we did the ARPA. Okay, so I'll do it two motions here. First is to approve the purchase of a large screen visual aid, associated cable, soundbar, surge protector, ultra heavy TV mount, portable smart screen monitor, 3 laptops, one large flat glass scanner, 4 desktop scanners, supplemental backup storage for a total estimated cost of $10,295 to be paid from ARPA funds as requested.
Second motion.
Does probate have a line in the budget for equipment like this, like very similar to this?
It's under office supplies, and we have a very modest office supply budget that would not be able to handle and upgrade all of this once, but
All
I'm gonna continue to use what I have until it's not usable.
all I'm thinking is that, you know, going forward, at least on the things that seem like they're gonna get upgraded, like whether it's the scanners and things like that.
Mhm.
And I imagine every few years you're gonna have to upgrade, just.
It is,
because
it will be
software
part of
issues
the
and everything
budget
else.
discussion.
We should make sure we have it. Like,
Mhm.
Do any of these have a yearly maintenance or service fee?
So there is one for the supplemental backup storage, and if the fee was not part of the information provided, I think it was roughly $120. I'll get that from Chuck and make sure
Was it
that in the future.
120 a year?
Mhm.
No, that's not worth it. Thank you.
all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 I move to approve the purchase of a Meeting Owl 3 at a total cost of $1,049 to be paid from ARPA funds as requested.
Second motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
What is this? That's a device that like it's in the ceiling and it's
Yeah.
search.
Looks like an owl.
I know it,
Mhm.
but it searches to see who's speaking.
Yes, it has a 360-degree camera at top that is able to
Wonderful.
focus on
That's
people.
something we could use.
Look into it.
It would be nice to-
And then the last item I have, is I just, did we vote?
Yeah.
The last item I wanted to bring up was a discussion item, something for the commissioners to consider, and it may impact my budget moving forward, as the discussion of the auxiliary courtroom, which I call my appropriate courtroom, and the recording software and equipment. Currently, the recording software and equipment is owned by the state of Maine, and they allow us to use it on Tuesdays. However, the state is responsible for maintaining that system, but is often not available. And so I have had our IT people come in, and they've been very helpful, and they pointed out some things that would make them feel more comfortable as far as security and updated compute, because it's a very old computer, and as I understand it, there's safety risks with that. So I'm trying to communicate with the state of Maine's IT department. That can be difficult, and it might be a very lengthy timeframe. So what I may want to discuss is looking into upgrading the courtroom recording software, perhaps with the ARPA budget, so that not only is it updated safely, and we're in control of the updating, it would just be an asset that we can use moving forward in the event the judicial center gets moving again.
When you say state, you mean the judicial, the people that might be moving out of here someday?
Yes,
So at some point, you're gonna be stuck with your own anyways, right?
correct. And right now, we're sort of maintaining it, and they placed it, and I don't have a lot of direct feedback from the IT, and when it comes to our IT and their IT, it's very, very hard to communicate on whether it's schedules or whatnot. So it's a concern I have, and I want to be able to maintain the best equipment for optimal security. So it's something I thought I should bring to your attention, and if you have any opinions on it now.
My suggestion is that if you think you need it, put a package together, bring it back to us in formal presentation, and we'll have to decide.
One of my comments is that, it's more, I was gonna actually bring it up in under item 13, but now this is a good time to do it. Seems like we'll need to do, sort of what we did for that ARPA workshop we had. We'll need to do another one. Probably in a few months or a month or two, maybe, just to catch some of the stuff like this. I'm sure that there's other examples of just this. And I don't know, Michael, if you had that in the back of your mind. I just didn't know, because I thought that workshop was good, because it sort of gave us an idea of what, I'd hate to just, we need to develop some priorities, around things like this. Is my only point.
So certainly that was the intent.
Okay,
Because some of these are coming in cheaper from what you would see
Yeah.
like this. And then some, obviously we've had some others come in with requests since then, so.
yeah,
And we're trying to keep those updated and reflected on your spreadsheet, but obviously we can do another, I would say, final round, because we're not gonna have too many more shots at that before the end of the year, so.
well, this is an example, and the sheriff's department, there's one coming up, and, I just want to make sure that, we prioritize them so that, because we can't do everything, or at least I don't think we can do everything, but we ought to be picking the ones that are best bang for the buck.
It was actually the first workshop that helped me realize all
All
of
these,
these
exactly.
technology advancements. And it was the courtroom issue really became apparent to me as I was working on the supplemental storage and cloud storage, and that's, having to communicate with the state is when I started thinking, oh, I might have an opportunity to get something for the county here that will be useful and under our standards of cybersecurity. So I think this has been a great process, and I'll be back.
So come back with a plan.
Mhm.
It's kind of closer to what it is.
Awesome. Great. I'll keep working on it, and see you soon.
As far as the workshop is concerned, my feeling was that served two purposes. First of all, it's a heads up that time is running out. Second of all, just like Juliet said, look at what you need, give us a sense, but I don't know how we can really prioritize in another workshop without having specifics on what they want and the cost of that, so that we can say, okay, that's $5 million worth of requests, we've only got $3.5 million in budget. What are we going to prioritize? Because I really don't want to make a decision until I hear what, a presentation like Juliet gave us today, what specifics on what she needs, what the cost is. So if we're going to have another workshop, I think they should be prepared to come with pricing and everything.
Specifics, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. A workshop's a great place to brainstorm, but you lose time when you don't have some preparedness. But it's certainly a great way to start. All set?
Great,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ask for some office equipment. Chairs. Currently, in your packets there, we've got quite a few chairs down in the office right now. There's two kind of studio tactics of patrol that are either beyond repair, one's broken, and they're just completely worn out. So to try to replace those with our fund money. Also looking to purchase 2 Pelican cases. They would be used to protect the 40-minute launchers that we just purchased. The reason why I'm asking for those is those are going to be transported to and from vehicles at least a couple times a week. So the more that they're protected, the less chances those are to get banged up and damaged. 5 sit to stand computer monitors for the desk in the office, but most of the people that are behind the desk all day, we will allow them to be able to push a button with the monitors, the desk will rise up, allow them to stand up part of their day. Trying to be a little bit ergonomically correct with those. And then the 5 heavy-duty file cabinets, the lateral ones. Current ones that we have right now are the tall, thin stand-up ones that will be yellow file envelopes. Those, once they get beyond a certain period of paperwork in them, they're not very user-friendly in there. They get overfilled, they slide down into the file cabinets. The file system that I'm trying to implement in there is I purchased 2 files. They expand, and they have their own separate little sections in them. So for an employee file, you can have their application for employment at the beginning. You can put their payroll information, and each one of these binders have their own separate file cabinet, or they would be filed. And the file cabinets are a lateral drawer pull, which allows them to go and insert them laterally in. And it's neat, organized, and they're more secure. And that's why I'm asking for the heavy duty ones.
The only other thing I would touch on, just to inform you guys about, is obviously this is an ARPA money request. And in respect to the ARPA money as well, beginning of the year, we had requested and had approved the purchase of 6 WatchGuard cruiser cameras and 4 REs, which we never ended up installing due to the fact that we soon thereafter learned that they'd be obsolete come the end of the year. So it seemed counterproductive to install something that would then be obsolete. So we did return those. We have started that process. So that will be about $38,000 that will be returned to the county that was originally purchased out of ARPA funds as well.
So basically what that does is filter out of this worksheet. Something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I believe it's being replaced though by a different system.
It will be,
Through
however,
IT.
that was what we had discussed last meeting, that
Yeah.
with the federal grant. So
Possible for
possible federal grant, yeah.
I need to know if a refund comes in.
Yeah,
So
they're literally being sent out today.
Yeah.
We have got the return labels and coordinated that, so.
Did you get a chance to examine those chairs? Yeah, I looked at them, I don't, Dennis here. Dennis and I both went in a couple times. Need to be replaced.
Yeah, in my opinion,
Thank you.
all are at the end of their economic life.
So I'm gonna move to approve the purchase of 9 office chairs, 5 sit-to-stand desk converters, 2 Pelican protector cases, and 5 lateral heavy-duty file cabinets for a total cost of $6,732.81 to be paid from ARPA as requested.
Second motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, commissioners.
So, next up on the list, and I think this will be a little bit of a discussion. To be fully transparent about what I'm intending to do or trying to do. So I have requested the approval to hire Jesse Dow from Bucksport for the position of patrol deputy at grade 12, step D, the hourly rate being $29.54 with a start date of July 20th, 2024. The buyout of $17,214 to be paid to the Orno Police Department out of community benefit funds. Now, the other components to this that I do want to discuss so that we all have an understanding moving forward, obviously, is that with the Tremont contract ending at the end of the month, this position effectively, right now, we're down a position, is the best way to put it, with the recent departure of an employee. So with us being down a position, the Tremont contract ends at the end of the month, June 30th. And so beyond that, there will not be that revenue stream from the Tremont town contract. Now, I would like to try to stay at the same complement that we are currently at without going down another body, because that also poses other issues as far as call on and things like that. So I would like and requesting to hire. Now, what this would look like is the funding would have to be acknowledged that the money is in Department 12 currently. However, the county would not see the return on revenue from that being expended. That would be something that we'd certainly have to budget going into next year. So I had an opportunity to sit down the last week just to look at the funds. Like I had mentioned, the money is in Department 12. We would just not see the same revenue return as if it was, we did have the Tremont contract. So we'd then have to budget for it moving forward for 25. The other thing that I'd like to bring to your attention is to say that this position would not be funded to any extent, I think is a little inaccurate. What this would allow us to do is in respect to town contracts such as Stonington. Right now, I am able to fill those, and I have been able to fill those for the last few weeks with the staffing that we currently have. But with that being said, if somebody were to take vacation or things like that, which we often see during the summer months, this additional position would allow me the opportunity that even with people taking vacation and things like that, I would still be able to fill the contract obligations. Whereas if without this position, if we get into times where people want vacation and all that, it may be a scenario where Stonington contract goes unfilled just because I have to meet the road obligations. So my request is to hire this position, stay status quo for staffing, and proceed forward and budget this position for 2020.
So basically, we know there's gonna be a shortfall on the revenue side of it. It is budgeted on the expense side, but we have no revenue to replace it.
Correct.
That's the scenario. Okay, so, but you've just stated that because you're able to fulfill some of the others, there'll be some revenue.
To some extent, I can make that statement, but I mean, to quantify it to any degree.
That was my question.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to quantify it. What it would allow me to do is, like I said, if people were to take vacations and things like that, rather than go down on Stonington contracts that particularly, I'd still be able to fulfill them. So I would like to stay, obviously that additional position that had previously been approved, we're not looking to fill that. I'm just looking to stay status quo for the amount of people that we had on the books. But exactly as you had illustrated, it would be money expended that where we would not see that revenue in Department 12 for the remainder of this year. I believe with, as we had previously discussed, with the remainder of the year, with this position starting July 20th, we'd be looking at expending somewhere in the ballpark of around $30,000 to $35,000. That would include the benefits and everything.
And then my last question is, coming from Bucksport, but paying Orono.
Yeah, so he just currently resides in Bucksport. He works for the Orono Police Department.
Okay,
This individual, he is from Hancock County. He actually grew up in the Brooklyn area, so he is local to Hancock County. He has family that resides here. He does have 4 years of experience. He is a certified officer, which is also reflected with the reduced buyout cost as we've previously seen as well.
I get it.
When you say status quo, you mean the number of people you had when you had the 3-month contract?
You are correct.
We don't have the 3-month contract. So first of all, it's unfortunate we lost the 3-month contract, but we're fortunate that at the same time we had somebody leave, so we didn't have to lay somebody off. So he's presently at full staff. The SO is at full staff right now. So what we're doing is giving him giving the SO an additional debt. This is not bringing in, you say status quo, it's not status quo because he's lost a position. So, but he also lost a man, so it balances that out, so he now is at that. So as we're talking about proving today, remember, it's a new position, it's not replacing somebody, it's not getting him back to full staffing. This is additional man. Also, a year ago, Andy Sankey came to us and we approved him going ahead with that $2 million EOC grant for the Emergency Operations Center, knowing that we would have to contribute 25% of that, or 500,000. And at that time, we set aside 500,000 from our community benefits account to cover that 25%. Presently, there's only 487,000, something a little less than provided that account. So technically, we do not have money in the CBA account to any other expenditures because we have set aside more than what we have for EOC. And so I'm opposed to tapping into that because it just further reduces the amount of money that we promised Andy with the EOC bill. So, A, we don't have money in CBA for the buyout. B, there isn't any money in the contracts to pay this guy. A few dollars you could scrape up over and above what it's going to cost, but that money is the revenue in the contracts has already been dedicated to an officer in the division, department down there. I think it's 100%. Under Fernal, if one of the deputies down there just to use a person, they have been taking out of the Department 10 budget, put in the contract budget, and the revenue to pay that person comes from whatever time they commit to the contract. So there isn't money in that 2012 to pay an additional person. So the bottom line is that there's no money for either the buyout or the cover of the deputy for the balance of the year.
And the only thing I would say in that regard is that obviously Commissioner Clark is correct that there is a position attached to the Stonington contract. As I had mentioned, this position would allow us, fortunately, I have been able to staff the Stonington contract. And I fully anticipate, because I also do the scheduling, there are vacations coming. There will be weeks where I may not be able to fill from contract shifts due to vacation requests and things like that. This position would allow us to also ensure that those obligations or contract shifts do get filled, which does compensate the county in some regard, because if, for example, Deputy Fernal is assigned Stone contract, that is great because, Stone contract would effectively pay for that position, but it's only if those shifts are getting worked. So if I'm not able to fill those shifts or work those shifts, Stonington doesn't pay for that money. So, with this position, if those shifts could be filled, then that is money that the county would see, where vice versa, they wouldn't originally, if that makes any sense. I know I'm kind of confusing in that statement, but
Well, that revenue is already budgeted.
that is correct, yeah. Like
It's
I,
not new money, that's just maintaining the budget.
correct. So, I would like to stay at the same staffing levels. We've previously talked about calls for service. And what that would look like is with going down this person or this position, the calls for service would increase as well. Thank you. The calls for service would increase as well if you break it up amongst each deputy on average what they would handle. So in that regard as well, this additional position would be beneficial.
Can you update this sheet I just gave you? Can you tell me, do you recall off the top of your head, Carl Kramer's a sergeant in section 1. Those deputies still in that section?
With the exception of Deputy Maine.
He's able, you understand, right?
Yes.
How about section 2?
Number
Chris?
3,
Number 3 is missing, correct?
it would be Alan Medina.
Alan Medina,
Correct.
and he's only got 2 deputies in that section besides the sergeant,
Correct.
and in 3,
Same. It's correct. The rest of the sections are correct.
John, I would say too, that some of the, I have been in touch with the folks in New York who were missing the Bull Hill community benefits payments. And we have since received one of the payments, and they're working with me to get caught up. They, just like here, they had changes in staffing. And they really didn't realize the contract was there, they weren't receiving invoicing. So I've spoken with a fellow and we started receiving the payments, those are being caught up. So the accounts receivable amounts are coming in, right, because the money's coming in, so.
I'm just worried about moving forward. Because we're gonna be needing to maintain the same number of people without corresponding revenue. That's my worry.
Yeah, and like I said, that's why it would have to be under the understanding that this would be money expended out of Department 12. That is currently there, but you would not see that revenue return. And then moving forward for 2025, this is just certainly something that we would budget. We'd have to budget going forward for 2025.
Yeah, so there would be an increase.
So it's not really this agenda item, but we look to see, and we talk about the Swans Island contract. I didn't think we had anybody on the Swans Island contract.
We don't currently. I have that on there. We are looking to hire an individual for that. That schedule has been agreed upon with Swans Island. And so I anticipate bringing a name for hire in the next couple meetings to fulfill that, which is compensated by Swans Island, that contract. The other thing that I'll say is I have that MOU in place in order to finalize the contract with Swans Island to put that in ink, so that we can then get that started of assigning that. But that position will be reimbursed by Swans Island.
This is when our Jesse Dow is not going to be this. It's not.
No, this would be a road position to help supplement staffing, fulfill the storming contract when people take vacations, and the road is to, I understand that in a way, as Commissioner Clark has outlined it, with losing the Tremont position or the Tremont contract at the end of the month, it is effectively, an additional position in a sense. But I'm trying to stay status quo as far as staffing levels, so that the calls for service for each deputy doesn't increase even further. We can fulfill those open shifts from vacation requests and such.
Vacation, summer's your busy times when you need your help, right? So they're more like, what we do is we can't give vacations in the summer in a lot of places. I mean, is there consideration like that? I mean, I know everybody wants to take vacation in the summer, but sometimes you can't do that. I hate throwing another, I just don't know enough about this to we're gonna have another person, but just another person so folks can take more vacation time. Almost counterproductive. And it costs money and gonna be a budget impact moving forward. Those are my words.
It is, I think, you know, from the administrative side, I understand what you're saying. I think that, you know, to kind of advocate for our guys a little bit, you know, it is time off to, you know, I really try to allow them to get time off. And in addition, you know, the way our system is structured for vacation time is a lot of times our guys don't take a ton of vacation, and when they do, or they want vacation, you know, to spend with their families or nice weather and things like that, that's great. But what happens is our vacation for a lot of our people, they max out and we can't cash it out. You either have to take it or you lose it. So I don't want guys to lose the ability to get vacation time. I don't want, they don't have the ability to cash it out. So a lot of times they'll be, well, you're gonna reach your max coming up. You know, you need to take vacation time or start giving back money, you know? So there's a few different components to it, but.
I think another argument to be made is we're taking a vacation from police work, right? Police work is one of the most stressful jobs there is, and to not allow people to have time off to, you know, kind of deal with the stresses of everything that we deal with on a daily basis. I mean, it's just, you're asking a lot of people not to be able to take a break from that.
I mean, as it is right now, to your point, Commissioner Parity, I have vacation requests that I haven't been able to approve quite simply because people don't want to be bothered with more overtime than they already have. I think, I don't know, 4 or 5 vacation requests right now pending, some even this weekend coming that I haven't been able to approve yet because nobody's been wants more overtime than they're already getting.
Anything else?
Again, I could support this if I knew that there were funds to pay for it. I'm not sure there is.
I mean, the only way you can get that revenue back is you have another contract. I mean, that's the reality. So you won't get the revenue back. The expenses in there this year, yes. The end of the year, though, it's like anything. I mean, the net budget's where we end up. So they take the expenses and minus the revenues. If you don't have enough revenues coming in and you have expenses that are higher, then you're gonna end up cutting into any surplus if you have any, or any funds available.
Well, that's
You would at home. So, I mean, and then next year in 25, to answer your question, Mr. Perry, basically is the taxpayers gonna pay for it. So, I mean, from a budgetary alone, I'm not talking about anything else that's been discussed, but from a budgetary alone, I mean, the answer to your question is there's technically the only way to pay for that position at this moment going forward in 25 is the tax.
Well, and that's my worry. You know, we can't go back to 25 with what we went to 24. You know, we strung up by our toenails, as we should be.
So I think there's a motion.
I can't make a motion. I don't know where to pull the funds. It's not from community benefits because it's not there. There's a potential that it's there, but this second, it's not there.
Let's move on to item C for a minute. Got the proposed memorandum of agreement for 4 days on, 4 days off.
Yes, so, like I had said, we have the intentions of hiring for the Swans Island position. That is a contract, it will be reimbursed by Swans Island. Agreed upon by the town is 4 days on, 4 days off, 42-hour pay week, 12-hour shifts. So this is the first of a couple steps, one being to get this approved for that position. Then the next is going to be the contract between the town and Hancock County. And then I will come back, as we've done in years past, with an MOU for the union, again, just outlining essentially the contract, but it's one of about 3 steps to assign somebody and get somebody out there.
And once again, I'm opposed to the language in here because of it gives the sheriff's department the opportunity to modify this without commissioner approval or union approval. And worst case scenario is that we sign this, I hire a deputy, the next day they decide, that we want a different schedule. So 4 on, 4 off that we thought we were approving today is out the window because they have the authority to change that at any time without our consent. So I'm opposed to the same argument I made with regards to the airport schedule.
So that's a great point. I would just like to add that that was actually something that was preferred by Swans Island. And I actually went over this verbiage with them. And the reasoning for that is a specific example is Labor Day weekend coming up. So they want a deputy, the deputy assigned out there to work, like Monday, for example, on Labor Day. They're like, we want the flexibility for if that falls, if that would originally or be a scheduled day off for that deputy, we want the ability to go to that deputy and say, hey, or the sheriff's office and say, hey, could you work this day in exchange for, your next day off? So Swans actually wanted that flexibility, and I do think it helps address any needs or requests also by Swans.
And you can alter individual schedule on a weekly occasion, individual occasion like that without having to sacrifice the entire agreement. The guy can,
So this question is sort of gonna lend itself to the previous item too. I don't have a full understanding of how this works. But this deputy, Swans Island deputy, he is only working Swans and only these hours. So that person, let's say he only gets so many hours on Swans, he's not helping you out elsewhere.
Unless he's filling an overtime shift.
Yeah.
Other than that.
He could pick up an overtime shift or a detail, but you're still paying overtime. These 42 hours are Swans paid for by Swans.
And don't ever,
Hey, I wouldn't put
Get
it
into
on there
it.
because it doesn't help patrol at all, other than the fact that we don't have to deal with the call on Swans when he's up there.
Chairperson,
Yes.
just a question for everybody. And I'm still relatively new here, obviously, looking at these contracts and how things have been done. But I'm trying to understand why the county wants to include in the CBA language related to a contractual position. Why wouldn't we just have an agreement with Swans Island that includes this information in it? Then the sheriff has on a weekly basis that flexibility anyway, or you could build flexibility into the agreement. But if the agreement goes away, so we can't provide somebody, or they don't want to have that service provided,
it's still in the CBA.
it's in the contract, but now it's in the CBA, and you're arguably saying that the position's permanently assigned to that.
Well, that's,
I don't get why we're putting it in the CBA, I guess, because the scheduling could be built into that agreement. And whatever the agreement is, I mean, it's different than the other positions that aren't, like the ones that are in Department 10, I get that. But for this, it's a contractual, and just even further reiterated by what you just stated, it's only tied to Swans Island. So if that something changes with that, or that contract goes away, you've got something here saying we're gonna continue to provide that. And even if you don't, you're operating under that premise. I mean, let's say we ended up getting for Dedham, I think it was, the school resource officer. So now we're gonna start building that into that, if it's a contract as well. I mean, at what point do we stop?
should be trying to simplify it, not complicate it.
So, well, the problem is that these people are in the collective bargaining unit. This guy's a patrol deputy. Patrol deputies are in the unit, so that means the union has a right to represent this individual. And so that individual, nothing says you can't change the CBA to accommodate that guy, but you can't take him out of the CBA.
And I'm not proposing that, but what they're proposing right now is specific to a agreement that doesn't exist. So if they're hiring this person specifically for the Swan Island, he's not a deputy or she's not a deputy that currently patrols, that's included as part of the CBA. It's not, the position isn't listed unless I missed it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is a patrol deputy. It's just like the airport. That guy is a patrol deputy. It's just that he has a unique situation, requires a unique schedule, so we can't work the regular schedule.
Exactly.
But Swans Island, you know, and I agree with the schedule, because the truth of the matter is, if he's out there 4 days, staying overnight, he's subject to on call in 24 hours. Nevertheless, it's a good schedule. But you're gonna see Joe Goldie here standing here screaming like a wounded coon if we try to remove this guy's working conditions and schedules from the CBA. And I understand what you're saying, and I agree with it to a certain extent, but you're facing a bigger foe.
And so I guess from the union standpoint too, I agree with Commissioner Clark in this aspect, that if absent this agreement, the reason for this agreement is not, it's to state that if somebody is assigned to Swans, this would be their schedule. It's not saying that we will specifically have somebody assigned to Swans. That's our intentions clearly here. But if we didn't have anybody assigned to Swans, it's basically obsolete. However, it is needed or required because it is a patrol deputy position, and therefore it would fall subject to the CBA. That person would be absent this MOU. I mean, my belief is that they would be subject to the patrol section, which would be a different schedule. This is the schedule that Swan wants and such. So
You can alter that 4 on 4 off on a case by case basis without changing this. Take out the ability to alter it permanently and just leave the 4 on 4 off. And if they want you to take an early day off and come back and stay an extra day from Labor Day, you can alter that schedule. That's not, that you have the ability to do that.
I understand what you're saying. I think that verbiage explicitly allows us to do that, and that's why the union wants that verbiage in for both the benefit of the county and Swan Island.
So just real quick, so the difference in this case is that in the past, when you did these contracts, they kept to whatever the schedule the deputies had collectively as a deputy. So it didn't vary.
The last time we had this position filled was 2021, and I believe, I don't remember what Deputy Moraine was working in comparison to patrol, because patrol has swapped schedules since.
Yeah.
So
We didn't give him a particular schedule. He worked something different. It's just by agreement because we never approved a different schedule.
So that was the point that I was trying to make. I guess I'm missing that part. Is that if it was by agreement for that, why is it not the same thing now? Why are you specifically looking at it?
I'm not sure if he was working anything different. I believe you worked a 6 on 4 off.
Correct.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised. That's what.
And that's why I asked the question. I mean, if it's not, then I'm just trying to understand why the union is inserted into this particular discussion.
I'm going to remove the language that gives them the opportunity to change it on a permanent basis. I'm ready to approve the agreement.
So it's just the word unlimited. It's the sheet.
Yeah.
So,
There will be only flexible schedule. Or if somehow we could clarify that, so that it means that, you know, on a case by case basis, but you wouldn't remove the 4 and 4 or alter the 4 and 4 without amending this agreement.
so,
I mean, here's the problem. Last week, we agreed on the airport schedule. And the airport schedule has 4 months of 12-hour shifts in the summer. Then it goes to 3 shifts, goes to 3 flights over a span of 8.5 hours. But Dakota said he wants to keep that 12-hour schedule year round. And that's what they're going to do come November 1st. They're going to change that. We sunset it. On November 1st, they're going to go back to 12 and 12. And that is the problem, is that may work good for the deputy, but it doesn't work good for the operations of the airport. And here we go again, No, I don't know what schedule that we couldn't agree without the sworn on to come up with, but
Well, I mean, that's what it kind of boils down to is from the union's perspective is obviously we feel that there should be a position outlined or described due to the fact that it is a different working schedule and different hours than a patrol deputy. So we do feel that there needs to be a description.
and I agree with that. I
Yep.
agree.
Yep, and so, the only other thing I would say is that the schedule and the flexibility statement there is something, the same verbiage that's used, for other positions as we've discussed, you know, as far as like the civil deputy, which Commissioner Clark has said, obviously there's circumstances there why he feels that that is, pertinent. We feel that this is pertinent, for this position as well, which was also agreed upon by Swans. They wanted that flexibility in there. I understand what Commissioner Clark is saying, where, well, you can go ahead and alter it, you know, and 1 week, a day here, a day there if you need. But I think that verbiage allows us, that's the effective tool in order to do that. And the
Well, Dakota,
union
can you tell us that
would
you
want that.
definitely are not going to change the 4 and 4 without some consultation with us and so on?
Right now, we have zero intentions. What I would say
Well,
is,
it's not now that I'm worried about, it's 6 months down the road, we decide you want a different schedule, and you just implement it without any consultation, that's
So-
what I'm concerned.
and that's, I understand what you're saying. I would throw that question back and say, if Swans Island is paying 42 hours a work week, and this is a schedule they want, 6 months down the road, if they're paying 42 hours a work week and they say, we want, you know, this deputy to work this schedule, will you guys agree to it? Why would you care all that much, Commissioner Clark, if Swans Island's paying for this
I would
position
not,
and they
but
want
if
that?
Swans Island says, we like the schedule we got, and he said, no, we're gonna go with 3 and 3, 18 hour, something else, and Swans said, we don't agree with that, he said, well, we have the ability under this agreement to change it, that's what I'm concerned.
So what I don't understand, this is, the union wants this and Swans Island wants this. None of them have signed it.
Well, the other problem is, do they want the whole agreement, or do they want the 4 and 4?
That's the
I'm
point
not
of me.
convinced, I'm not convinced yet that the union is focusing on this change, unilateral change by the sheriff's office. They're focusing on the 4x4, and so is Swans Island. Now, Swans Island does want that flexibility, which I say you always have, you still have with all your people, that on a case-by-case basis, you can alter their work week. You can't alter that to the patrol on a permanent basis, but you can on a case-by-case basis. And if you're telling me that's all this means, and we're not gonna alter it on a permanent basis without consultation, let's take a vote.
So would it suffice or satisfy what you're saying then, if that clause would be in there, would be in agreement with Swans Island? Would that, because that's your, that, you said that was your concern, is that
I
we would
guess I
change
have
it.
to talk to someone to see, what do you agree to? They say, I'm agreeing to 4, if I work for flexibility. Plus, we want to be able to work late day, well. I'm just not convinced that Swans Island really is adamant about the flexibility as much as they are. 4.
So let's say this was in place and they want somebody on Labor Day and it happens to fall on 4 days off. And the deputy doesn't want to work. What happens there? This actually keeps that from happening, right?
It allows us the ability to.
Oh, no, because the sheriff can compel them to work.
But technically speaking.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying, that they have the ability to, on a case-by-case basis, alter the schedule if they want to. But what I'm concerned here is they're going to alter it on a permanent basis, without consultation or agreement by all parties.
I guess I'm not seeing any big minuses here, but I'm also not seeing any big plus.
It's
Let
just,
me give you an example, because if come November first, the sheriff's department now can change that schedule to whatever they want. They say, we're gonna keep it 12 to 12. And Leroy says, that doesn't work for me. Well, that's too bad. Our schedule allows us to keep it 12 to 12, and Dakota said, he and John Mayon's already said, I want to keep 12 to 12 year round. There's the reason right there that we should not be agreeing to this, because if they change this schedule sometime later to something other than the 4 to 4, and Swans Island says, we don't agree with that, too bad. Quality of life, or whatever reasons they want to come up with for changing, they're going to change the schedule. Why don't you see that? I mean, it's happening right now. They're going to retain the 12 to 12 at the airport, and Leroy has already said that does not work in the off season.
you sunsetted that agreement October 31st, so I don't know why you keep saying. we're
November
gonna keep
first,
it.
you have the ability to put whatever you want, and come November first, Dakota, you know that John Mayon said, I want to keep that 12 to 12 schedule.
You're 100% correct, because an employee does not want to bounce back and forth between
Yeah,
different
well,
schedules
see,
throughout
there
the
we
year.
go. That doesn't work for the airport.
Okay, we're not talking about the airport, we're talking about a position paid for by Swans.
Airport pays for theirs. This is identical.
Well, they have to because TSA requires them to have law
It doesn't
enforcement
make any
there.
difference. It's the same scenario.
Well, regardless, you're gonna dedicate somebody 11 hours a day the rest of the year after October 30th. Like you still have to dedicate a person to the airport all year long. And you can't, they have to pay for the 11 hours that person is scheduled. So it's not, you're talking a 1 hour difference for somebody's quality of life. Like, I mean, I don't see why that's such an issue.
Okay, take quality of life out of this. Quite honestly, guys, this is just between Swans Island and the schedule, and it is just something that the town is going to be paying for. This is something that has been gone over with them. They agreed to it. I mean, this is my personal opinion here. I don't understand the kind of bickering back and forth. It's just this is something that we talked to Swans about. This is just something we wanted to present so that we can get this position done.
What, is there anything that you changed? You would agree with it?
That if the agreement said that would be unlimited flexibility on a case-by-case basis in the schedule.
My reading of this, correct me if I'm wrong, is it establishes a 4-day on and a 4-day off schedule. And then it says, due to unusual demands of this position and in order to best satisfy the needs, request of Swans Island, there will be unlimited flexibility in the schedule as deemed necessary by the sheriff. And with the agreement of the deputy assigned to Swans Island. And
If you add it on a case-by-case basis, does it affect your opinion on it?
It would, in the sense that if 6 months down the road, Swans Island says by agreement, by contract, they'll pay 42 hours in a work week, right? That's going to be inked in writing between Hancock County and Swans. If Swans says, we'd rather a 4-on 3-off to allow to cover more days, 10.5-hour shifts or something like that, it's agreeable by the sheriff's office and the deputy. I don't know why we would pigeonhole ourselves in saying, okay, Swan's paying 42 hours regardless, why not meet the needs or requests of them? I like the flexibility behind it, the union likes the flexibility behind it, Swans has agreed to it. Quite honestly, I don't know why we wouldn't approve it. It is 42 hours, that is, and obviously we all have different perspectives or viewpoints here. Where I stand, 42 hours is 42 hours. Yes, it is a 4-on 4-off now. There's no way to make it any less. There's no way you can work less than 4-on 4-off and get paid 42 hours. The only scenario is you work more than 4-on 4-off, it's just shorter shifts. So you're not gonna get working less. If anything, you'd be working more. And in addition to that, it just allows the flexibility between the sheriff's office and Swans to meet any requests or needs that they have.
Quick question again, not to be difficult, but just a quick question. So under that scenario though, in theory, the commissioners, because that really would be tied more to the agreement, correct? So if they decided they wanted to change, then they would have to come back unless you included language. Of course, we don't have that agreement right now, so I don't know what you're gonna put in it, but that basically would be a contractual change unless you allowed yourself the same language in that contract with Swans Island to give you the authority to do that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so the contract, I intend on it to be read that Swans will pay for 42 hours a work week, the schedule agreed upon with the sheriff's office.
Because if it was spelled out specifically, then I would argue that they would have to require a new contract and come back to you anyway.
Right.
So I guess that would be the question, what the contract looks like.
Which is why we don't intend on wording it that way for that specific reason. It would be that Swans will compensate 42 hours a work week, the schedule agreed upon with the sheriff's office.
I'm like, my head's spinning again. This to me feels like something that should be in a contract, not in the CBA, but
Well, this is,
I'm not sure that it's,
this is part of the contract. This is part of the collective bargaining agreement.
no, when I say contract, I'm talking about Swans Island.
Well, the truth of the matter is, it's the MOU. Contract's pretty boilerplate. Nevertheless,
I'm not saying any girls.
honestly, God, I don't understand. You can see it coming in the airport, it's an identical situation, you can't see it here. Do what you want to do, guys.
Well-
I have this bad habit of saying, I told you so.
But see what coming, that this,
The fact that they wanted to come up with a schedule for the airport, that
not,
Leroy, I'm just saying, it's identical situations here.
well, that one's water under the bridge.
No, it isn't. Well, it is, but it should serve as an example of the adverse elements of having this in an agreement.
Well,
John, what do you, I'm not, he is, what are you gonna do?
I would keep putting it, changing the language to the on a case by case basis. Try to satisfy.
Otherwise known as flexibility.
I don't know if it really, how much it changes the two.
I just don't know why we'd include that to then, if Swans does want a schedule change or something like that, we then have to come back up here to do it all over again, when no matter what, it's gonna be a 42-hour work week. I just,
42
I think
it
it's-
doesn't make the difference, that's not the issue here.
I think it's
Issue
just
is what
another
we end
hurdle.
up with the days on, days off, that's the issue. You know, so we can get back to 6 on, 4 off, and get 42. Is whether or not we're gonna end up with a schedule that we all can agree with. And we're not gonna get in the way of the sheriff's department and Swans Island agreeing to the schedule.
So then
That's
why do
what
you
we're-
care about it?
We do. We don't care about it. We just want to make sure that Swans Island is satisfied with this, and that something isn't being forced on them that they're not in agreement to.
We're not gonna
This,
force anything on them, Commissioner Clark, because ultimately we don't want to lose that position. We don't want to unemploy that person, so we're going to do whatever best satisfies the town.
your unwillingness to compromise and whatnot is the best example. It's just like deputies in Washington County, looking at Washington County, no, I'm not gonna agree to anything. You haven't compromised. I can't remember the last time you compromised.
We can make that same argument.
On this.
I've compromised on several things, first of all. Second of all, I'm
I'm going to move that we approve this agreement with the insertion of, on a case-by-case basis, between the word flexibility and in the schedule.
So tell me,
After the word flexibility, you insert on a case-by-case basis.
tell me what that does.
That means that they retain the flexibility of, like, Labor Day or Memorial Day, whichever Labor Day I guess he was talking about. Yes, on a case-by-case basis, you can change, alter that schedule. but it doesn't allow them to alter the 4 on, 4 off without consultation and consultation on a new agreement,
Consultation with whom?
just what he's doing
The
today.
commission.
Saying,
So you feel that by putting that in there, they deal with it on a case-by-case basis. If it's anything more than a case-by-case basis, they gotta come to us.
correct.
And without that language, you feel that they wouldn't have to come to us. I feel that they would. I don't think that change, I could agree to that because I don't think it changes the agreement.
All right. Did you second that?
Seconded. All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So just for clerical purposes, you guys would like what change?
After the word flexibility, just insert on a case-by-case basis.
Get drafted. Thank you.
Dennis, you ready?
Gentlemen. Good morning. You can see item A, I'll ask permission to accept the resignation of Mike Marshall effective June 14, 2024.
So moved.
Second?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Further request the hire of John Matthew, Surrey, Maine, for the position of skilled maintenance tech at the pay rate 9C on the courthouse pay scale, effective June 15, 2024.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
Well, did he get signed up and everything?
He did.
How did we do that without some kind of formal approval from employment?
Oh, we did?
Oh, what do you mean? I had, I sent it to the courts. And and Troy, said he was fine to go.
The commissioner's talking about approval to hire, not back.
We have to approve the hire of all employees.
Right.
We're asking that be retroactive, so we can start tomorrow.
Nevertheless, that in the past, Dennis, if you recall, we could accommodate that, but at least the chairman gave his blessing. I mean, what happens today if unexpectedly something happens that we don't approve? You've already signed this guy up.
What's conditional? It's a conditional offer,
If you
which
wanna read
cannot
this.
be, which cannot be fulfilled if the board does not, of commissioners does not.
You know, lucked out because I don't believe there's any opposition here today. I'm just saying, I think that's a poor policy. I think that's something we should be very careful about. At a minimum, if you need them in a hurry, at least consult with the chair.
Certainly we'll do so in the future,
Call
if needed.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
RFP?
Yeah, I'll request the approval to publish an RFP for the courthouse paving project, which would take place over 2 years, as previously discussed. The upper lot and areas to include some new work first year, and then the lower lot next year.
Are we doing that to accommodate our schedule or perhaps theirs? In other words, why wouldn't, if we could get it all done in 1 year, would we do it?
I would, I'm concerned with the staging and business around the
So this
OJ.
is as much our schedule.
Yes, if they were done and out of here, I'd say yes, do it all at one fell swoop.
So I suggest that we approve an RFP for paving the whole parking lot and you just guys schedule it. Just as long as we lock them into
Right. And
that. But
And that's what I wanted to make sure, clear understanding that the second half of this might not take place till next year.
we'll do it all if we can.
Right. For sure, I think that would make sense. That sound good to you, Michael?
Well, in this RFP, doesn't keep that from happening. they can say that, right?
In terms of the schedule, yeah, I mean, if you wanted to.
Okay.
Just, I mean, that would be obviously more in the agreement that ultimately is
Sign.
signed, yeah.
So approving this RFP, that scenario doesn't alter the approval of the sign.
But I mean, obviously, if the intent or the possibility is that the county would like to potentially see if it's feasible to do that all at once, and it probably ought to be spelled out as an option, I guess.
For sure.
But it's being bid this way.
Yeah, with the idea that, I think that just protects us in the case that they don't have access to the area we need resurfaced because of other action, other.
Well, it would be hard to do everything all at once if you're not gonna be able to then immediately turn around and put vehicles somewhere else, correct?
Right.
Yeah, so even if you did it on a weekend, you'd still have.
Right.
So that's why I don't see a problem with this RFP.
The idea would have to be though that the contract would be complete by the end of the year. The contract would have to be obligated by the end
The
of the
work
year.
wouldn't have to be done. but we have
Got you,
to-
yes, exactly, yeah, and that's what I'm asking the vendors, each vendor said they come with that understanding that, you know, we need to close this by the end of this year. But some of the work might not be performed till next year, based on accessibility and the potential delay of no access to town.
When we reclaim the value of that, what they take up, right?
Yeah, it's reused, yes. How that works with the credit towards this job, is that what you're
That's
driving
what,
at?
that's what I'm wondering. They-
I don't, I think they view it as their property once they grind it out of there. Because you're right, it's an after sales hot product, in fact, on the
If you,
aggregate market.
if you have the resources to deal with it. I don't
Right,
think you
yes,
do.
which is why it's a
Yeah.
pretty exclusive club,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
What do you mean?
It becomes their property to,
Yeah, if they have the machines to do it and then the place to store it, the trucks to haul it elsewhere.
You know, when they reclaimed the Bar Harbor Road, have you seen that pile in there on the right? across
Yeah,
from
it's
the,
massive.
From Bellcat, no, Bellcat, what do you call it?
Yeah,
There's gonna be millions of dollars worth of value right there.
Could be, I
Trying
think.
to rescreen that.
Yeah, and everyone that lives on a dirt road now, that's what they're filling with, if they can.
All right,
so I'm gonna move to approve issuing an RFP for a courthouse repaving project as presented.
Second motion.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And project updates. We have scheduled Haslam Hall to do their repairs on the elevator tower. And we've received finally the prints and plans for the new railing, which is in production. And on the plumbing side, we have received our new plumbing fixtures and are scheduling the electrician and Nichols Plumbing to come in and start that hopefully within the next 3 weeks.
Where's that windows for the steel?
They say that's the glass that they've got a shipment out for that 2-pane insulated glass that they're waiting for. They've got the frames made and they're just waiting. Every time I talk to them, they tell me it's 2 more weeks. It's just like that old movie. So I'll wait 2 weeks and ask them, 2 more weeks. But I do know that there have been production delays with, everyone's dealing with this everywhere, especially with this ARPA fund.
That's, on the plumbing situation. Don't you have to do the work, in
In the garage?
the garage first?
Yeah, no, that's, well, we could, but this is the fixtures and plumbing in the cells
Okay.
that the problematic pneumatic devices get overwhelmed easily. And so that takes place above, and then we haven't even had a chance to, we have a plan for the project, but we have to tear apart that ceiling in certain areas just to complete the drawings for the new drain lines, which hopefully will be coming in the next few weeks. We met out here, talked about removing the whole ceiling. Decided to proceed, we'll remove just the sections that were impacting and plan to replace that material, because my search for a better material out there has not been very productive. So short of putting a 3-pound weight on top of those thin PVC top, we're talking about the ripple effect of the wind and that we'd like to kind of address while we're doing this, but so right now we're going with status quo. We're gonna see what the options are once we see how big the impact area is.
So there isn't any issue per se with the installation of the fixtures,
No,
even though they like have the macerators or whatever in it.
yeah, and that's the thing that's changing too. Those macerators might not be practical. In fact, might not even be the best solution. What we discovered is that these drains come out of those cell blocks, head in the other direction, and meet at very slight pitch, turn around, and then come back the complete length of the garage until they reach the boiler room level where they drop down. And so we could shorten those runs by more than half on all of them, and some would knock 50, 80 feet of run out of those, which once they hit that horizontal, that vertical drop is really where you cut the contraband out, and we can have cleanouts in those spots, and it's costless. That's kind of pursuing that, but none of it's really clear until you can see them. We've had trouble coordinating.
And that's just to make sure I have this right, that ceiling has to be there, it can't just be opened up.
Yeah, that ceiling
Because
does
there's
a
no
couple,
heat.
yes, it does a couple of things. One, it provides an area that you can impact and replace without damaging the entire system. And two, a foot above that is Celotex insulation. And all of the area above that is heated all winter because of that plumbing that's up there. And so we have to maintain the integrity of that membrane at all times. And even in the summer, the weather that's coming, if we open that ceiling up, it'd be like raining in there because condensation on every one of those water pipes would be pouring on the ceiling.
Any other update first?
No, that's where we are, and hopefully we'll put a ribbon on one of these guys soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Purchase 3, sit to some desk, officers.
So the first one, the eighth, that's been postponed to July, we have not reset that one. I just got an email about it yesterday, and I apologize for the late notice on it. But we are asking in the commissioner's office to get 3 sit-to-stand desk risers for the commissioner's office for a total cost of $637 to be paid by ARPA. This will allow us for the ergonomics and being able to have different positions. We are desk-driven up there, and there are a number of people who would prefer to be able to change their position throughout the day, and that would allow this to happen. Hopefully that will decrease skeletal issues with individuals.
So,
Second, all those in favor? So just a minute, you can buy one of those desks for $212.
Well, it's a converter, so it's on the desk, so it's just a regular desk. It's, and we just do it, so it has a lifting motion, so we're not changing the desk itself, we're just doing that. Right, and it's what Deeds has and what
Okay.
Chuck has in IT.
I'll change my question. You're paying $212 just for that? Okay. I mean, What about the chairs? The chairs okay, Michael?
One person could use a chair.
Why didn't you go through your office?
well,
We have gladly, upgraded your office needs.
We're happy to write an addendum to it for the next meeting. Well, we'd love to get these in place and get these ordered and,
Call, yeah. All those in favor? Aye.
thank you.
Just, extending the contract, for emergency mental health for 6 months until we figure out what's going on with RFP. Where we're at, no change in price, same everything, just the dates change.
So I'm going to approve the mental health services agreement with Worcester Mental Health Services Incorporated for a term of 6 months, July 1 to December 31, and authorize the chairperson to sign on behalf of the county.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We continue the 6 month contract for now, 10 years. What? Well, why is we sticker shock here when we get?
So it's actually the same thing, just changing it. Yeah. I agree.
I don't know.
So our signed version, we changed the name, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we can give him ours and then give you a copy however you want to do that, but we changed it so he wouldn't have to.
All right, so there's no sign, that was it, that's the only thing.
Do you have the original of that? Because that was the issue. We only had a scanned copy.
That's all I have.
Yeah, so it would have been the same thing. That's why
Okay.
we did it that way. But we do need to get a copy of that. Not that John had not to sign.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Cody, you got something to sign? Yep. We're going to executive session, yes.
Okay.
Everybody?
It's
Oh, stuff like that. We signed it. That's not. Still have to get signed.
That's what that is.
Yeah, but I'm, elected body being last.
Well, it's not effective. It's all-
Because they signed it.
His signature. Thank you.
All right, take a break for.
You want to take?
Session from a break.
Yeah, I'm gonna move to go in executive session as permitted by MRSA Title 14056A for an exempt employee evaluation.
Second motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're back in session from our executive session report.
So I'm gonna move to go into executive session as permitted by MRSA Title 1, Section 4056C for the acquisition of real property.
Second motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Tissues. All right, we're back in executive session report. Let's do 8 on today. Any county administrator comments?
Yeah, sorry, just a couple of quick things here. One is, probably about a month ago, you had an inquiry at board on you about that resolution for medical school. Is there any desire for you to take any action period on that? Or can I just notify him that you've discussed it, but you're not in favor of taking any opinion?
My opinion is that we should not take a position that we have no responsibility to or authority to.
I agree.
So, just, yeah, good luck.
Any commissioner comments?
Oh, just really quick, last thing. Just so we can say we discussed this, because I really haven't had, I think most people kind of get the idea, but there has been quite a bit of discussion amongst all the county administrators throughout the state of Maine about July 5th, since it's Friday, and whether or not they close or not going to close anything. I'm operating on the understanding that the courthouse will be open on Friday, July 5th. Is that correct? I mean, just so I can make that clear to everybody that you can ask your requested time off of your supervisor, and granted, then you get to use your time off for that, but you're not looking to close the courthouse on that.
Yeah, unfortunately for us, we have a union contract that doesn't allow us to do that. And it'd be unfair to non-union if you gave them the day off, not the union. So I say just stay away from
I
it.
mean, if you gave it to the non-union, then arguably the one union of the three that has that language in there, I would say you'd have to pay them anyway for the people that would have been working that day. So it trickles down a number of ways. And it's all over the place. Some are basically giving them the day off and telling them we're not gonna pay you. You gotta use your own time. Some are basically closed, a couple of them closed, they actually have built in their policies. And then a bunch are asking their commissioner, 2 or 3 are asking their commissioners today. But I've always operated on the understanding that unless you tell me otherwise, we have set number of holidays, and that's kind of the deal, so.
That's what I said.
Okay,
That me.
thank you, that's it.
Was there, was I supposed to remind you guys to discuss the meeting scheduled for July?
I was gonna bring that up.
Okay.
Thank you. Ready for hours?
Yeah.
If you look at July's calendar, you'll notice it's got 5 Tuesdays. It gives us the ability to move the 16th to the 23rd and still have 2 weeks before the August meeting. And I would ask that you consider doing that. I have an obligation on the 16th. I can't be here for meeting on the 16th. So what you'd have is you'd have July 2nd, 23rd, and August 6th. You'd have 3 weeks between one of those meetings, 2 of those meetings, whether you had it on the 16th or the 23rd, it just doesn't matter which one it is. Okay with that? Okay, so Michael,
Yeah.
we'll
Move that. The only thing I would say is probably on the 23rd, then we might stand a probably even better chance of starting to have that preliminary budget discussion stuff anyway, so.
I was looking forward to that.
I know. So by actually delaying an extra week might make that a little bit more useful anyway, so.
what's that deadline for something?
We'll be meeting to finalize the schedule, but normally, see, last year I had it all that you had to have it in by the end of July. But what we found is obviously in trying to keep up with the spreadsheet, we've got to stagger a little bit. So it depends on who's on the final schedule, and I want to make sure that the department heads are going to be available for the date. So I'm going to give them a schedule to look at Thursday at our department head meeting, and then make sure availability is there so that we can get everybody scheduled in. So I would assume it's going to be staggered again. So some of the later departments might be 2 weeks later, just depending on. And that way we don't have to rush everybody and then prematurely have to try to get everybody. Because what we had last year is people kept looking at us, do you have a budget yet? Do you have a budget yet? No, we have to start with the first departments we're working on and go the next ones, the next ones, the next ones until we get it all lined up. So that way it just makes it more manageable, and you don't have department heads that are scurrying in July, put something together that you're not even gonna talk about until sometimes in August, so.
So the only other issue I had with now was, as you might be aware, Leroy lost his funding from TSA for law enforcement assistance for the cost of that and whatnot, so he's bearing the full cost of that. In talking with him and whatnot, there are a number of issues that he doesn't quite understand as to what he's being charged for and why he's paying what he's paying and so on. We had a meeting scheduled with Michael, Leroy, us, DSO, and whatnot, and we had to cancel that meeting. But I'm hoping we can do that again, and I'm wondering, you said you had a department head meeting Thursday?
Thursday, yeah, but it's gonna be a pretty full agenda already.
Before or after would be another question too.
I can check with everybody to see, well, actually, I know, because Leroy is not here, that's why we didn't do his performance evaluation this week either.
He's
Because
gone,
he's out of state right now,
so
so
this week's the
it's
question.
probably, yeah, I'm sure, because he wouldn't even be available to remote in for that discussion, so I know it would, at earliest would have to be sometime next week at this point.
Is that getting close to your budget preparation time? Or-
No, I mean, it is, but the two,
It's almost,
we can juggle both things. I mean, we would have had the meeting last week if unfortunately.
this is kind of a budget thing with him,
Most definitely.
so I mean, this is gonna be resolved, so we'll try to set
We'll
a
see
date
what we can get.
for the week after, then try to meet that.
There was talk of, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
There was talk of some remedy outside of the county for that,
What's that?
for that funding.
So basically, as I understand it, Leroy's looking at building that cost into the renewals that are currently coming up for consideration here in the next 2 months or next month or two here. So that basically, it's my understanding, he's sending back to the airlines, basically, the provider, anyway, that fee be built into the cost of what they need to pay the county.
Or what about, because what those people are gonna pay the county is somewhat based on the subsidy they receive for essential air service. Right? Do I have that right?
Well, I believe to a degree, yeah.
So one kind of a domino thing, which we
Well-
assess, they add it.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
To a degree, yes. I mean, that's the way I understand it, is basically it's impacting all different elements, and it's basically a shifting. You know, you start here, and unless you want to say, well, we're just gonna have to provide it, the taxpayer's gonna have to pay for it, and we're gonna have to absorb X amount of dollars every year, then
Well, I was hoping that shift, I guess the question is, now that you brought up that shift, whether that shift comes outside of the county or within the county, that's the part that I don't have a handle on. Because if it's outside of the county, what do we care where it comes from?
You're talking about funding? When you say outside the county, you mean Leroy assessing a fee to the airlines or what?
The airline,
Does it have to do with the requirement by TSA? If they have to have security, then he wants to pass the cost along to the people that are.
whether it's the airline or the FAA that pays it through the
and
reimbursement.
you basically, yeah, I mean, that's the transition would be, that's not gonna be the TSA anymore for the
Right.
foreseeable future.
Yeah,
So does the airline, now to answer, you go further refine that, I guess the question becomes, how does the airline make up for it, or how does that contract get up for it? Do they pass it on to their consumers as well?
yeah, then our ridership goes down.
Yeah.
Our funding goes down.
So I don't have a good answer for you, other than the only way to avoid that is to 100% take the financial blow of that and decrease your revenue, knowing that you're gonna have to pay for that expense somehow, and probably the only way you're gonna be able to pay for it is through the taxpayer.
We may end up at some point, whatnot, having to put together a small committee whatnot, to study how we can, if there is a way to decrease the cost of it. It may come down to that. So be prepared.
else?
Move to adjourn.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye.